Good afternoon. Thank you for being here today. It is 2:00 p.m. on Thursday, September 9th, 2021, and this is a scheduled time for the adoption hearing regarding proposed changes to chapters 564 and 565 of the Nevada Administrative Code. This adoption hearing is being held virtually via WebEx using either computer or telephone to ensure all wishing to participate may do so considering the current pandemic situation. This adoption hearing has been properly noticed and is being recorded as required by Nevada open meeting law. My name is Jennifer Ott, and I'm director for the Department of Agriculture. Unfortunately, you're stuck with me today because Mr. Administrator Ferris is off on medical leave. So I will ask all NDA staff members on the call to identify themselves and introduce themselves, please.
Julia Miller-Ketchum with Department of Agriculture, Animal Industry.
Thank you.
Young Inouye, Department of or Dairy Division. Just taking notes.
Sierra
Russell, Public Information Officer, Nevada Department of Agriculture.
Thank you. And Ian?
Ian Knight, Nevada Department of Agriculture, Livestock Identification, Law Enforcement, Agricultural Police Officer.
All right, thank you. So any other NDA employees on this meeting that I don't see? I don't believe so. So Julia, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Let's see. Okay. So today, all participants have been muted upon entry. During the presentation, please keep your microphone muted unless you are speaking. Please raise your hand if you have a question or a comment. You can find next to the participant's icon, you will click it to open, find your name and hover over your name. A raise hand icon will appear if you wish to speak, and that will let us know to call on you. Click it again after you lower your hand to speak or to withdraw the request. If you don't find the hand, by hovering near your name, use the three dots at the bottom of the screen to open a menu where you'll have the option of raising. We have muted everyone to reduce the background noise. If you wish to give public comment, please use the hand raising feature and ensure that your mic is unmuted, and we'll call on you. For those participating via phone, you can raise your hand during the public comment periods or the question period by pressing *9. You can unmute yourself when called upon by pressing *6. If you have any technical issues during the meeting, please try the following. Turn the video off to see if the connection improves. Leave the video meeting and either try to rejoin or call in using the phone number and login information from the agenda. If you are having problems getting unmuted or into the comment queue, use the chat function to make your comment and it will be recorded for the record. In addition to public comments during this workshop, during this adoption hearing, interested parties are welcome to submit written public comment and to animalindustry@agri.nv.gov. Since there is no sign-in sheet, as there would be at an in-person workshop, we'll be using the participant list. If we're unsure of your name, you may send us a chat so that we have the correct information in the meeting minutes. And if you're joining us via phone, please send an email to animalindustry@agri.nv.gov indicating that you have participated in today's adoption hearing or remain on the line after we close so that we can capture your information for the meeting record. From our agenda, you will see that we'll start with a period of open comment for anyone wishing to speak on concerns or to provide feedback. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes to ensure everyone can be heard and save questions for the next portion of the meeting. Following open comment, Director Ott will provide some historical context as to why we're at this point, the steps in the process, and then we'll review the changes to NAC 564 and NAC 565, followed by time for questions and comments. After questions, there will be another period for additional public comment on the adoption hearing. Those who wish to speak during public comment are requested to use the hand raising feature and, when called upon, identify themselves by name and affiliation for the record. Again, please save your questions for after public comment at the conclusion of the review of the proposed changes. There will be time for questions and dialogues at that point once all information is shared before we move on to the next round of public comment. So now I will turn it over to Director Ott for historical context and review of the proposed changes and an additional question and answer period.
Thank you, Julia. We're opening for public comment first, correct?
Correct. Thank you.
Okay. So we're now open for public comment. Is there anybody on this meeting, or I don't believe we have anybody via phone at this time that wants to give public comment, but that is available.
I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Right. And since we just have a few people on this call, I will just interrupt me if there's any comment or question. So we'll just go through the agenda slide and go through the NAC changes that have been posted, and we'll ask for questions at that time. So Julie, if you want to share those slides. All right, so public comment is closed at this time, and we're now going to go into a history review, which is the next agenda item. For those of you on the meeting, here's a quick review of the actions taken as part of this administrative rulemaking process and how we got to the language today. So in 2014, there was an executive branch audit report number 15-02 that recommended brand inspectors move to contract work. Over several years, several subsequent issues arose, including proof that even though the brand inspectors were moved to contract work, that there was no financial savings gained for that move. We also received industry feedback on the quality and timeliness of brand inspections and what was working and really what wasn't. There had been budget issues with this account that funds the brand inspection, the livestock inspection program. So at the 2019 legislative session, we did receive a letter of intent issued by the legislature requesting a budget solution and a business plan to solve the budget problems for this account. A program and budget solution was developed by the department, reviewed by industry groups, and submitted to the legislature in June 2020. And the administrative rulemaking process began in June 2020. Next slide, please, Julia. And because of all of the feedback that we had received from industry, we believed a budget solution could not come without a program solution to address the industry needs. So we have developed the business plan that is publicly available. That would include moving brand inspectors back to state service. Currently, the starting numbers for state service is 5 full-time employed brand inspectors, 30 seasonal employed brand inspectors, and then, of course, interim contract inspectors as needed, and also during the transition period that we're moving from contract to state. We looked at a dispatch program, also looking at instituting higher level of training and expectations for our brand inspectors, assignments for area knowledge. That was a direct request from the industry so that our brand inspectors did have historical knowledge for the industry members that they were inspecting, and an electronic or computerized program for livestock auctions to make that process more seamless and efficient. So the NAC change, or the administrative rule changing process, original language for NAC 564 and 565 was proposed and submitted to the Legislative Council Bureau, LCB, on June 25th, 2020. The department completed their small business impact survey on October 16th, 2020. And our first public workshop to obtain feedback was January 14th, 2021. There was some feedback we received from that workshop, and we revised the language based on that feedback and presented proposed regulation changes on May 18th, 2021. And now the next step in the process is this adoption hearing. This is today's meeting on September 9th, 2021. As soon as we finish this slide, I'll pull up 564 and 565 for review and note which sections of 565 will be adopted at the next Board of Agriculture meeting under Board Authority. And after that, changes go to the Legislative Commission for passage. So at this time, if Julia, you can pull up the NAC 564.
That's
That's the
apologies.
small business impact statement.
Well, crud.
There you go. There you go. There, you got it. Thank you, ma'am. So this is really just a formality. So this is part of the recording. These are the NAC changes for 564. These have been available over the last month to review as they were properly noticed per the open meeting law. And if Julia, you want to continue to scroll down, these were the changes based on the feedback we received from that first workshop. And there were, from what I understand from Administrator Ferris, there was no changes after that of the second workshop because everything looked good after the second workshop. Are there any questions on 564 from members of the meeting? Any comments? All right, Julia, if you can go ahead to 565, that would be great. All right, so this is the NAC 565 that we will be adopting today, unless there are any comments or issues. If you could pause there, Julia, for me, thank you. Just want to note for members joining us today, the highlighted portions in yellow, we will not be adopting today because they are under board authority. So we will be adopting those at the next Board of Agriculture meeting. But all other sections we will be adopting today. So we're going to be taking this in two parts. So there will be additional time to comment to the board for those highlighted sections. If you want to scroll down a little more. Again, these have been publicly available, and that is the last highlighted section that we will not be adopting today. As this is again under board authority. This will be adopted at the next Board of Agriculture meeting. All other items of this NAC 565 that have been noticed will be adopted today unless we hear otherwise from the audience. So is there any questions or comments from the audience on any of this, any either NAC 564 or 565? Mr. Busselman. And if anything, thank you for just chiming in so I know that our video is working. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm sorry that I couldn't find the right buttons to do the hand raise sooner, but
No, you're
um,
good. You're good. I was going
um,
to ask you to chime in anyway. I want to make sure that everybody can hear me. So I appreciate that.
yes, and I think, I think I'm Doug Busselman from Nevada Farm Bureau, for your record. I guess I was not aware of the highlighted yellow portion that you had identified. That has not been part of the documentation that I've reviewed to this point, although I have no problems with it. I'm just noting that it wasn't something that was apparent in any of the other documentation that I've had to look at, but I think it's a good idea. I also think that in the outline that you presented, the additional contract employees that you have identified as a potential, I think is a very good safe mark or a safe stop. Our board in our review had expressed some concern over whether or not there was enough personnel to deal with the busy time of the year and whether or not that would be a problem. And so I think having the ability or on the options, contract employees as backup, I think is a great idea that we support in resolving that issue that we had. I have not seen, I know that in the operational sense, there had been some discussion about there being a centralized dispatch system. That I don't, unless I missed it, was not brought up in the discussion so far. That was the other concern that our members had expressed, was whether or not that system would be dependable or not especially for the transition process of our members who have been accustomed to this point of just contacting their own brand inspector to line up services, and how that transition would go about. But other than that, I think we're on board from a Farm Bureau standpoint with the other things that you've identified, the changes that have been made. And again, I think it is a good idea that the board be given that opportunity to deal with those highlighted bullets. So that's basically my comments.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Busselman. Jennifer Hatt for the record. I appreciate that. Yes, we, as we were going through this process, we just wanted to do our due diligence, make sure our T's were crossed and I's were dotted, and this is precautionary on our part. It's from the Attorney General's office. It was their opinion that this should be run by the board, so that we're going to do so. So everything else that's not highlighted is going to be adopted. I appreciate your comments. We're going a little off track because your other comments are not about necessarily the language, but more about the program. But I'd like to, just respond to those. The contract employees are something that made sense to us and that we were really going to do anyway. We probably just didn't do a good job about talking about it, is that we knew that there wasn't going to be a drop dead date where it was going to be all state or all contract employees and all state employees. And then, we'd have to work it out. And so a transition period so that there's not a break in service was really important. Again, the dispatch is programmatic. It's not about this language, but I think that that's something that we can continue to talk about in the future with you and your membership, and talk about, our reasons behind it, and before implementation, to just give everybody a chance to weigh in and talk about how that's going to go. So I think that we still have some room for that. So thank you. I appreciate it. Are you good?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure. Is there anyone else on the call or anyone else in the meeting that would like to comment or have questions?
I don't see any hands raised.
All right. Just giving everybody an opportunity to find their cursor and weigh in if they want to. All right. Well, since we have gotten to the portion where we have reviewed the history, we have reviewed the language that has been noticed. At this point, we can adopt the language. The Department of Agriculture, under authority for the director, adopts the language of NAC 564 and 565. Except for the portions of NAC 565 that will be run by the board. So at this time, those regulations are hereby adopted. And so, Julia, I can move on to any other closing public comment.
I'm not seeing any hands raised again.
Mr. Busselman, would you like to provide public comment at the close of this adoption hearing?
I would like to thank you for including us in the early on presentations as well as throughout the entire process, and we appreciate that interaction. Hopefully, after everything is settled and the plans come together for implementation, we would like to work with you and the agency in making our members aware through our communications of what the timetables and how those will unfold, and how we might be able to bring about whatever transition needs to be done in an orderly fashion. So thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. We appreciate that. Mr. Moore, was that a thumbs up in agreement, or do you have public comment you'd like to provide?
No, sorry. I was just messing with the program because I haven't used this before and accidentally clicked something. So that was my fault. Sorry.
No problem. No problem. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
One more chance for public comment before we close this hearing. All right. Well, thank you all for attending and providing your comments, your questions, and your input. I greatly appreciate it. And at this time, we are considering the adoption hearing adjourned at 2:23 p.m. on September 9th. Thank you all so much.
Call in user number. Can we get your name, please, for the record? I think we may have lost them. Have them anymore. Okay. Thank you so much.
That's all right. Thank you, Julia, for all your work on this. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.